We're talking about 3 ways to get that quick KO in under 10 seconds. It is possible. As many of you know on the channel, I'm not a fan of this tactic, but it can be done. And if you're gonna get it done, it needs to be done in one of these 3 ways.
Yeah, good job.
I have cautioned many times on this channel, if you're fighting, not to run out and pressure for the KO, because so many things can go wrong. And while you hunt for that KO, you can end up getting knocked out yourself. But I know many people want to get the quick finish, and many people love that highlight reel knockout. So if you're somebody who's like, oh, I gotta do it, it's just at some point in my career, I've gotta run out and give this a shot, try one of these 3 ways. And little side note, our number 2 way of knocking somebody out in under 10 seconds, it's kind of dirty and you can get it done, but I'm not gonna be an advocate for it. I'm gonna tell you, yeah, it's legal, but I don't like it. So method number 1, and this is very dependent on what your opponent does, because if they decide to be cruisy and they're just gonna chill initially, this won't work. But it's delivering a defensive overhand right. Why does this one work so well? Why do we see so many people get KO'd when they rush forward and that defensive overhand is thrown? Well, very often when somebody goes on a big charge, they're just like, okay, I'm gonna go for it, and they let a lot of punches go, they keep exposing themselves. That's just the nature of punching. I'm protected, I'm not as protected. Not as protected as I would be if I'm just standing here. So if you run across the ring or you literally try to charge forward, your momentum is moving into your opponents. All you have to do is wait for somebody to make this mistake against you. You get your head off the center line with the opposite hand that you're gonna punch with, staying really tight to the head so you don't accidentally lean into a shot. You're protected here, head off the center line so all the other shots go by, and you boom. And their momentum of rushing in trying to knock you out ends up backfiring, and you can get that quick KO in under 10 seconds. But again, this is all based upon this guy being overly aggressive. If you want them to be overly aggressive, maybe you verbally taunt them at the weigh-ins or the press conference. You do something to get under their skin so they are reckless in that initial part of the fight. Option number 2, like I said, which I'm not a big fan of because I think it's a little bit dirty, very dirty actually. But option number 2, what's the first thing that most people do early in a fight? Bell rings, touch gloves. Generally after a glove touch, you do a little exit, you reset. But there's no rule that says you can't touch for the glove, actually make contact and hit them, or come out almost touch and then transition that hand. I don't like it, but it is within the rule set. And you know, I've seen a lot of people in MMA do this. I always go, no, you are such a jerk. That was such a low move. But yeah, you could be here, be like, they give you the nod, yeah. And you come out and then boom. Once again, not a fan, but it is a possibility if you are hunting for that minus 10 second KO. The last one is delivering a running, flying knee at your opponent. And we've seen this work a number of times. Ben Askren got knocked out against Masvidal, but also Kid Yamamoto from back in the old school Pride K1 days, he delivered a great run across the ring and KO'd his opponent in only 4 seconds. But there needs to be a few little stipulations to actually make this work. Number 1, you have to have an opponent who drops level. If the opponent stays here and you run for a flying knee, chances are you're not gonna land the KO. But if you charge at them, a lot of times people will do something, especially if it's MMA. If it's MMA, they might accidentally go, oh, I'm gonna take them down, and they end up coming into that head knee. The next thing you need to be aware of is running across the ring and jumping and just going into a straight knee. It's usually not clever enough to actually work. But if you do a switch knee, That's when people get thrown off. They see you run, they see you take off and start coming with this knee, they put their head to the opposite side, and then you switch and surprise them. So it's just that charge where you just, and then boom, and land. And yes, again, it can work. And in my experience of throwing flying knees, because I very much like them, you are not at a big risk when you throw a flying knee of getting countered. If you do it wrong, and you just stand here and keep your head in this position and run forward, sure, maybe you can get countered, but I don't think I've ever thrown a flying knee and been in danger of getting punched, mostly because of the height and the level change. Although in this instance, it's more this direction instead of going upwards because you have that run behind you. So there are 3 ways that you could potentially KO your opponent in under 10 seconds while staying relatively safe. 2 of them I like, 2 of them I think are legit. 1 of them is just not a cool thing to do, but once again, could actually work. And if any of you guys on the channel end up scoring at some point in your fight career a KO in under 10 seconds, make sure you message me and I will get it up on the channel. I'll give you a shout out because that's pretty awesome. I've never done that in my career. I think the fastest KO I've had is maybe like a minute, about that. So let's call it there, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. As always, train hard and I will see you back here soon for another episode.